So, welcome to Know Your Civic Quotient. To begin with, let's look at India. India as we know today. In the current year, industrial growth has gone down to as low as 1%. This has been the lowest over the past 2 decades. And then there is, wait for it, corruption. And you know what? Most of the crimes committed in the country happen under the influence of alcohol. Also, crime against women is increasing in the form of molestation, domestic violence, dowry, and of course, female infanticide. Millions of infant girls are being killed every year. Suicide by farmers is another issue the country is facing. And if that's not enough, Naxalism, the most serious internal threat to the Indian national security. And the list goes on and on. Now, to find the cause behind these issues, let's look at this three-way nexus. First, we have the politicians or netas who supposedly run the country. Then we have various businesses which contribute to the country's economic growth. And finally, there's the civil society. So what do you think is the one common factor here? Think. It's you, genius. Ta-da! Because you elect the politicians. You fund the businesses. And you are a part of the civil society. Let's look into the real cause behind all these problems. And it is indeed the darkness of ignorance. So, let us shed this ignorance with the light of knowledge. Do you know about your basic rights and duties? Do you know how you can become a part of the solution? Do you know how the political system in India works? Let's look at the Indian governance structure. India is the 7th largest country in the world in terms of area. Therefore, to manage such a big country, it has been divided into 28 states and 7 union territories. Therefore, there are 28 state governments and 1 central government. And this structure is governed by the rules and guidelines laid down in the Constitution of India. To delegate responsibilities to the government, there are 3 lists defined in the Constitution of India. First, the Union List, which defines the responsibilities of the central government, for example, defense, atomic energy, etc. Then, the State List, which defines the responsibilities of the state government, which includes taxes on lands and buildings. And finally, we have the Concurrent List, which defines the responsibilities of both the governments, for example, electricity, water, etc. Now, how would all this happen? The Constitution says there are 3 main pillars that run the entire show. 1. There is the legislature. Then the second most important pillar, the executive. And finally, the judiciary. Apart from these 3 main pillars, there is also the 4th pillar called the free press or the media, which has the ability or strength to uphold the Constitution. Let's begin with legislature. So what is legislature? It is the set of people who make the laws. The head of legislature is the president, under whom there is a body called the Parliament. Parliament consists of 2 houses. The Lok Sabha, which is the House of the People, and the Rajya Sabha, which is the Council of the States. So, let's look at the Lok Sabha, the lower house of the Parliament. In the Lok Sabha, the members are directly elected by the people of India. Each Lok Sabha has a tenure of 5 years. There are maximum 552 seats in the Lok Sabha. Since India has only 543 constituencies, the number of members elected by the people are 543. Additionally, 2 members representing the Anglo-Indian community are elected by the President. Effectively, there are 545 members in the Lok Sabha. This is how the Lok Sabha looks like. The officer in charge of the Lok Sabha is called the Speaker. The ruling party sits on the right side of the Speaker on the treasury benches. And on the left side, we have the opposition. A party needs to win half of the total seats. That is, win 273 seats in order to form a government. But since there are so many regional parties, no single national party is able to win 273 seats. Therefore, the national party needs to form an alliance with other small or regional parties in order to get the tally of 273 seats. Currently, there are 2 main alliances in India. The UPA, which is the United Progressive Alliance, and the NDA, the National Democratic Alliance. UPA consists of Congress and its friends, and NDA consists of BJP and its friends. Okay, there are 2 kinds of alliances. First, pre-poll alliance. Second, the post-poll alliance. In pre-poll alliance, parties are friends before the election itself. In post-poll alliance, parties become friends after the election. Here there are 2 options. Either the party can become a part of the government or only give an outside support on any issue raised. Now let us look at the Rajya Sabha, the upper house of the parliament. Rajya means state and Sabha means assembly. Unlike the Lok Sabha, here the members are elected indirectly by the Legislative Assembly of various states, which is also known as the Vidhan Sabha. There are 250 seats in the Rajya Sabha, out of which 238 come via the Vidhan Sabha, and 12 seats are nominated by the President for their contribution in arts, literature, science, and social service. Let's see how a law is passed in the country. To propose a law, a bill needs to be passed in both the houses of the parliament, that is, the Lok Sabha and the Rajya Sabha. Once the bill is approved in both the houses, it then goes to the President. And once the President signs the bill, it becomes an act. This concludes the first pillar, legislature. Now moving on to the second important pillar, the executive. These are the set of people who execute all the laws that are passed. Here again, the head is the President, under whom is the Prime Minister. The Prime Minister of India is the leader of the majority party in the Lok Sabha. The Prime Minister can either be a member of Lok Sabha or the Rajya Sabha. Under the Prime Minister, there are the Council of Ministers, which comprises of the Cabinet Ministers. Example, the Finance Minister, Railway Minister, Education Minister, etc. These are the ministers with a portfolio. Then there is Minister of State. But remember, not all MPs are ministers. That's a wrong notion. Ministers are the ones who hold a portfolio. And at the next level is the bureaucracy. For example, IAS officers, IPS officers, etc., who work at the ground level. And that, friends, concludes the second pillar. Now moving on to the third pillar, judiciary. It makes sure that all rules, guidelines, and laws of the Constitution are properly followed. And for this, of the many courts, the three main types are: first, the district court, which is the lower authority; second, the high court, which is the higher authority; and third, the Supreme Court, which is the highest authority. And the judge of the Supreme Court is called the Chief Justice. And that concludes our third pillar. Let us not forget that the government is by the people, for the people, and of the people. My future depends on the kind of laws that are made in the parliament of my country. And my vote is my voice in the parliament. Every vote counts. Let us take the example of the 2008 Assembly elections, where one of the main constituencies in Rajasthan was won by a single vote. I will do my bit to see a just, peaceful, and prosperous India. What about you? It's time I take responsibility for the world around me. It's time I consider my country as my world. It's time for a change. It's time to vote. Vote for a better India. Jai Hind.